Welcome back to Resume Builder Formula. Now, in the last session, what we discussed was, of course, I introduced the program to you. What is the agenda? We also discussed about how the foundation of this work is knowing yourself, right? Knowing where you're going, knowing about your long-term career plans, short-term career plans, and so on. We also discussed briefly about the expectations that you have from your first job and the expectations of the world from you as you step into this, your professional career and your first job. So we discussed that in the last session, and in the end then we said what are the challenges that you will come across that are bound to happen for you to learn, grow and prepare for them, right? That's what we discussed in our last session. Now we get into this session understanding, to clarify our understanding about what is the whole thought behind when we create a resume. It is basically meant to get the job offer, right? But there are steps in between, correct? You don't just create your resume and you get the job offer. It doesn't work like that. So what happens is that you have to go through the process. Now, when you're going through a process as an individual, it is also imperative to know what is the industry practice, what is the industry process. जब आप कोई resume भेजते हो एक employer को या एक HR person को, तो वो किस नज़र से देखते हैं उसको? Why are they actually looking at your resume? And if they are looking at your resume, what are they actually looking for, right? What should be your core purpose and agenda behind preparing your resume? So it's, before we deep dive into the nitty-gritties and the transactions and the strategies to create a resume, it is important to take a step back and understand what is this process all about, right? So moving forward, what is the goal of your resume? Pull out your notepads quickly and write down. What is the goal of your resume? There's only one goal. Can you tell me what is that? Yeah, just go ahead and write it down in your notepad. I'm going to give you a minute. All right. So the goal of your resume is to get you the interview, isn't it? Right? And that is the only goal that a resume has, right? Everything else we are talking about, communicating your professional brand, talking about your skills, strengths, whatever you do, basic core message and the core purpose of the resume is nothing but to get you an interview call. Because once that phone call happens, right, or that email happens that you've been shortlisted, please come for an interview, or we can get on a telephonic round of interview, which is an elimination round, the first round. Once that happens, you can do the talking for yourself, right? But for you to get your foot in the door and for you to reach that stage, you have to prepare a resume, the document, right, which is the most important. So look at it like a passport, yeah, not even a visa but a passport. You don't even think about traveling abroad until you have a passport, right? So just to have a parallel analogy for you to understand, that is the only purpose of having a resume, okay, to get you the interview call. Moving forward, now this whole process of resume writing and as I was just telling you, hiring process, what is actually happening in the hiring process? Or let me put it like that, why are you preparing a resume? Of course, we've already answered one aspect of it, that you are preparing a resume to get you an interview call, but there is something else to it. What are you doing when you share a resume with somebody? Let's see. Okay, so let's help you formulate your strategy. So do you know that we all sell for a living? Yeah, we all sell for a living. Meet Peter, an accountant. He says, no, I am a professional and I am employed as an accountant. I do not sell for a living. Interesting, right? Let's keep going forward. So this is a small story that I want to tell you, a story of Peter. Okay, really, Peter? You don't sell for a living? Let us see. What does Peter do when he wants to buy a new car? let's look at this as an example. Okay, so Peter goes to the market, he wants to buy a new car. So stage 1, Peter would look at what is available. Mitsubishi, Honda, Ford, Toyota, Suzuki, Nissan, Volvo. What are the options? What does the market offer? Okay, and then what happens? Then Peter would evaluate what he is getting for the money he is paying, isn't it? That's what we all do when we have to buy anything, isn't it? So while I'm telling you a story of Peter, take a moment and bring forth an example. What do you do when you have to buy something, right? So you look at what is available in the market, you evaluate the options with reference to the money you have, the budget, right? So Peter says, okay, my budget is say X lakhs, for example. What are the kind of cars I can buy in my budget? Fair? Third step, Peter would collect information about cars, right? Peter would research, he will go online, he will make calls to car dealers in the vicinity, he will check, he will take information, or maybe even go for a test drive. That's what you do, right? When you buy a car, you go try it out. You go, you check the fuel efficiency, the features, the size of the car, the size of the engine, and so on and so forth. So Peter would go and collect information about the cars. And then what does he do? Stage number 4, step 4. Now Peter would make a decision about which car to buy, right? So that is the point where you take a decision, because by now you know what is market offering, stage 1. You know the budget that you have, right? And then you evaluate what are the options available in that budget. 3, then you would collect the information about the cars, specifications, right? Features, characteristics. And stage 4, then you would make a decision to buy a car. That's what Peter would do, isn't it? Yeah. Very interesting. Just hold on to this thought. Okay. This is exactly what we all do when we have to make a purchase or buy anything. Now let's have a look at the traditional hiring process. Okay. Very interesting. Stay with this. There is a position which is vacant. Now what does the employer do? Your employers, the prospective employers, the companies, they advertise. Yeah. This is the advertisement stage where they say, the employer would look what are the options available. Remember when Peter was to start looking for a car, what did he do first? He looked at the market. What are the options available? And guess what? That is exactly what a company does also. Advertisement stage. Advertisement where an employer would look at who is available for the position which is vacant. Job applications through social media, through referrals, through network, and you know the drill. So that is the advertisement stage. What is the second stage? Communication stage. Here what happens is the employer would collect the information about the candidates, isn't it? The employees, people like you and me, the candidates, we go and apply, we write the information and we communicate the value, or we send the resume. That's the communication stage, and the employer collects that information about the candidate, right? So far so good? Fair. Stage 3, evaluation stage for employees, where the employer would evaluate what is the company getting for the money it is paying. Remember, Peter had a budget, right? That this is the money I have and these are the options of the car that I have to buy. What does the evaluation stage, what happens in the evaluation stage? The employer would say, this is my budget for this position, this is how much I can pay. Let me see who all are available, right? Collected the information, advertised, collected the information, and then evaluating that, okay, this is the budget for the job in question and these are the applicants, right? Stage 4, and now the employer would make a decision about which candidate to hire. So what did we just do, Peter? We explained to you this is what the hiring process is all about, right? Advertisement, communication, evaluation and decision. These are the 4 steps involved in a traditional hiring process. exactly like how Peter goes to buy a car. Yeah. As you can see, Peter, employers go through the same process when hiring employees as you go through when buying a car. Interesting, right, Peter? Because Peter said, no, we don't sell. He doesn't sell because he's an accountant. So, mind you, we all sell for a living. Now, please don't hate me saying that, but Chinmay, I am not a car, right? So don't compare me with a car or any object. And you're right, that is not the point. The point I'm trying to drive home is that end of the day, this is the process, right? This is the process that's being followed in the industry. And so it is important that you look at this process objectively. If you have to take one thing from this conversation, please take this, that it is an objective process at the end, right? The company out there has a position vacant. They are looking for the best candidate. Now that best candidate they may find in 5 people, in 10 people, in 100 people, we don't know. And guess what? Out of those 100 people, if they're exploring, out of 100, there's only one person who will make the cut. Now that doesn't make those 99 people bad. All the company is trying to do is evaluate and find that one best person fit for that role. Not even the best, but the person who's fittest for that particular role, isn't it? Doesn't it make sense? Yeah. And guess what can happen if you can approach a job, a process like job search, exactly thinking that, oh, this is how I buy. You will be able to relate and you will be able to see this even more objectively, rather than getting stressed out, rather than getting letting your emotions get in the way, and just knowing that company is doing just its job. And so you also do your job by putting your best foot forward, right? By understanding what will it take for me to get through the evaluation stage or advertisement stage or communication stage. And that is exactly why I'm here today, to help you find out how can you leverage your resume to get through the evaluation stage and advertisement stage, and help the company make the right decision which is in your favor, right? So as you saw, we all sell for a living. So for Peter, a self-employed accountant sells his services to his customers, whereas an employed accountant sells his services to the employer. That is the only difference. But we are all selling for a living, right? So remember this for a very long time to come, that first job or second job, or even if you start up your own you start your own company, you have customers, you may have vendors, you may have teams or organizations that you support and serve, but end of the day, we are all selling, right? Bear that in mind, and then approach this job search process. So here are the 3 skills Peter needs to have in order to sell himself well. First, advertise and market. So potential employers would know about your existence. How do you market? By using these tools: resume, website, blog, applications online, networking, cover letter. These are your tools, your arms and ammunition that you will use to get through that advertisement stage where there are hundreds and thousands of more candidates just like you, right? So how can you differentiate, and how can you remember that I can leverage this tool to sell myself, sell your skills, right? Stage 2, communicate effectively about your skills and expertise so that the employer would know what is the company getting. Unless you communicate, so I work with a lot of senior executives and senior professionals in the industry, and they tell me, Chinmay, why should I have to write so much in my resume? This is my job to do, right? And that's what I tell them, that you see, if you don't blow your own trumpet, who will, right? And don't get me wrong, I don't mean blow your own trumpet as in exaggerate the points or your achievements. No, that's not what I'm saying. But all I'm saying is, until or unless you communicate them, articulate them in a resume, in a cover letter, on the social media, how would the company know? Correct? If you don't, then who will? You will have to make an effort, and that starts from knowing yourself, which is the foundation as we discussed in the previous session. So Number 1 stage, advertise and market. Number 2, communicate effectively. And number 3, show value. Show value, that you can bring value to the employer. You can help them find a solution to a particular problem for the money to be paid, right? Remember, Peter, this is my budget. What is that I'm getting in that budget, right? What is the value? So as an employee, as a candidate who's launching his job search or her job search, it is your job and your duty to know how can you communicate the value, right? How can you communicate the value you bring onto the table for the money that they are investing in you. And most importantly, just leave this aside, end of the day, this is your career. You're also investing your career with the company. You are investing your time, your resources, your energy, your hard work, right? So until or unless you articulate and communicate your value, you will not be able to do justice to this process. So 3 skills, as we said, very important. Very quickly, what are these 3 stages? Advertise and market, communicate effectively, and show value. Make notes if you have to, but these are the 3 skills that you need most importantly, even before you start working on your resume. And for me to explain to you that this is an objective process, so that you don't see, because there will be rejections, they are inevitable, right? You don't take them personally. You remember the next time you get a rejection email, you remember what you do when you have to buy something, right? You remember that the company has a lot of options. They have a role, a requirement, and they have hundreds and thousands of resumes of people, of candidates who look just like you, whose resumes look just like you, right? So now the ownership is on you, that you take the ownership and understand this process, how it is seen from the other side, and you prepare to advertise and market, communicate effectively, and show value, which helps you get through the advertisement stage, evaluation stage, and the decision stage, right? So I want to end this session here. Do you know how to advertise, communicate, and evaluate in order to sell yourself? Write the answer to this question in your notepad and be honest, okay? And I will see you in the next video soon, and that is when we will discuss the strategies, how you can do all of this and more. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye for now.